had 190 miles of range left, and it's only 146 miles to get home, but I ended up with a negative 5% battery. How is this even possible, Tori?
I think the best answer to this is by Ken Schultz. He says, the battery doesn't store miles, it stores energy, and it can use more energy to accelerate quickly, drive uphill, drive into a wind, drive in the rain, drive with the window open, run with the air conditioning, accelerate more quickly. So, uh, his point here is that when you put it on range and it's showing miles, you expect to be able to drive, 190 miles. But the battery isn't storing miles, it's storing energy, and you're using that energy for the display, you're using it for the air conditioning, for the audio system, for full self-drive, the computers, the cameras, and it therefore, you never get the full range that you see, in mileage. And that's why a lot of people, including Ken here, says, change your display to show a battery percentage instead of estimated miles. That really helps people connect dots and going, I've got this much percentage. And just in general, call it 80% of your battery capacity if you're driving normal could be used for your range, but it's never 100%. And then I've got one more comment here by MG, and he kind of hits some specific things here too. He says, air conditioning, altitude change, your speed, just turn on the navigation and it'll tell you if you can make the range or not. The problem is people that they think that they can make it because they see a number of miles in the battery, but the car knows better. And that is the big thing. I do navigation to, I mean, pretty much everywhere because I'm using full self-drive though, I guess to be fair. But, if I'm taking any trip, even if I wasn't using full self-drive, if I was taking any trip over, 20 miles, I'm gonna go ahead and put it in there because the car does know all. It knows better, and if I'm going to need to stop to recharge the battery, it will route me there, I don't have to think about it. That's why I put every address almost everywhere I go, I use Tesla's navigation to take
Yeah,
me.
that's what DLT says. A more accurate estimate is given on navigation due to it takes a more, let me start over. A more accurate estimate is given on navigation due to it takes into account driving conditions and your driving habits. Your outside temperature of 140 degrees is probably a factor too. Um,
Oh,
and
that
then,
but hold on, just on that point, that's a really good point because the computers could factor in how much miles you have left, but it doesn't know how and where you're going to be driving. When you put something in navigation, the car goes, oh, it's interstate at 70 miles an hour. It's going to use more battery. That's why your battery percentage or range is not accurate because it's showing the capacity of it, the stored energy, versus when you put in navigation that 300-mile trip, it factors in the uphill, the downhill, the type of driving you're gonna be doing. Interstate uses way more battery than around town. It's actually opposite of a gas vehicle. Gas vehicle on the interstate, you burn less gas than you do stop and go driving around town. In a Tesla, you actually get I get better range when I'm in stop and go traffic around town. So, uh, but when you put it in the navigation, it can see what you're going to do, and therefore it can compensate. That's a really good point by
yeah,
ELT.
yeah, that is a good point. And so let me ask you about this one from Jeff Watkins' story. He says, I think it's the heat. I drove from San Clemente, California back home to St. George, Utah and experienced the same thing. It's so hot. The AC runs more. I was also driving fast. So, I mean, I'm down here in South Florida right now and it's smoking hot. Is the heat just across the board gonna use more battery? I'm assuming so.
Well, yes. What's funny about this though is that cold uses battery too because the battery has to warm itself up. Batteries need to be warm in order to function at properly to output the full amount of power, and when they're too warm, though, they have to cool down, and therefore it
Yeah.
runs a radiator fan. So if it's too cold, it's running the heat pump, and it's circulating the coolant to actually warm up the battery. If it's too hot, it's, running the fan in the radiator and the pump to cool down the battery. I would say that, that's definitely contributing to this. I've noticed that, on the chart on my Model X, I've chosen to show the energy graph on the right side of the screen that's in behind the steering wheel, and I pay attention to my watt hours per mile. And I love that because I can see if it's using a lot. And when I first get in my car and it's like hot, it's 110 degrees in my car and the AC kicks on full blast and I'm driving, down the road, I'll notice my watt hours per mile will jump way up over 400. And then as I get going, Model X's are power hungry, but it'll drop down to 330, 340, maybe 350, depending on what I've got the temperature set at and how I'm driving. So, yes, the heat definitely will use more battery because it will have to cool the battery down at some point, just like the cold does to warm up the battery.
Yeah. Yep. So that's good information about range versus estimated mileage